What easy things can people do right now to reduce their exposure just a little bit?
Where to start? Clock radios, electric blankets, and waterbeds are absolute no-nos in any bedroom. So definitely get rid of those. Phones, mobiles, chargers have no room in the bedroom either. They produce significant radiation, and they should be completely removed. Driving in a car, you'd be horrified how much electrical wiring is in a car and how much radiation that produces. So as much as you can, minimize driving. Don't go on extended drives if you don't have to. Dimmers are a no-no. They produce quite large electromagnetic fields. Transformers and power leads, near your bed, that all needs to be cleaned up. I'll take all that away. If you have those bedside lights that are touch sensitive, those produce an enormous field. There's always a transformer at work wondering if you're about to touch it. So they're quite bad actually. So get rid of those completely. Don't give them to someone else. If you have a spring mattress, replace it with a non-metal based mattress, and of course not a waterbed either. If you're buying a bed frame, go for a timber bed frame with minimal metal. Nuts and bolts is fine, but no long length metal. This helps with the deflection of natural radiation, and also metal parts attract high frequency radiation. So you want to minimize that in your bed frame. Don't use earthing mats or grounding sheets or silver sheets on your bed. You would much rather remove the burden before it actually reaches you. There's research to show that an earthing mat actually increases your exposure. It can get rid of a static charge, which is good, but because there's so much electronic pollution about, you've actually made yourself the gateway for this radiation to get out. Don't sleep or sit against the meter box. So if your bed is currently parked with the headboard against the meter box, you don't even have to ask me to come to your house. The advice is going to be to definitely move away from that. Depending on the readings that you find, it may be sufficient to move the bed to the opposite wall, but it may very well not be, because there's quite powerful cables leading towards that meter box that can be causing havoc. If you have a computer, try and keep cables away from you. Often when I do an assessment underneath somebody's desk, there's an accumulation of wires and transformers and all this sort of stuff. It doesn't quite need to be there. You can clean that up. You can push it to the side, hang it over the edge, just keep it away from your feet. If you have a desktop computer, that doesn't need to lean against your leg either. That can be a meter away from you. If you have to put a disk in, you can just lean over it. If you have a laptop, a horrible name for them, they should never be on your lap. Use non-wireless technology. So, turn your Wi-Fi system off in your computer, disengage the Wi-Fi in your router if you have one of those. Taking the antenna off may not be enough. You may have to go into settings and change it. If you have wireless in the house, then at least turn it off at night. You could buy one of those clocks that people use for their lights to make them turn off at certain times and on at other times. You could put one of those on your router and just make it turn off at 12 o'clock at night and back on at 7. Normally doesn't need to stay on at night. Shield yourself from the effects of a smart meter. Don't sit near dimmable lights. Stop wearing battery or electrically operated watches because they're constantly putting pulses out, which can actually quite weaken you. Be mindful about wearing metal objects, things like spectacles, necklaces, large earrings, and underwires and bras. They've actually been linked to breast cancer. If you're building a new house, always go for a sheet metal roof. Because sheet metal deflects high-frequency radiation, so you've already shielded the bulk surface area of your house, and you can just worry about the walls. Solar panels, you would want to put them on an area which you don't use during the day. If you have a say in where they're being put. Try and get them put as close to the apex of the roof rather than the gutter, so that they have a field underneath them on a sunny day. And the distance, with distance it wears off. So the higher up on the roof they are, the less radiation, or possibly it might not get you. But a room that you don't use during the day is preferable. Garage probably being the best option. It's a good idea to have a tri-field meter in the family. This is a meter that measures electromagnetic fields. It'll tell you a lot about your exposure throughout the day, in the car and at work. And just by having that information, you'll be able to take action and move things away from you, or avoid being in those situations. And I suppose, listen to your feelings. If an area feels wrong, then it probably is wrong. A little bit more specific for the males. As we mentioned earlier, sperm takes 3-4 months to mature. So you really want to have a 4-month period of preconception care in terms of radiation avoidance. So mobile phones should not be in pants pocket, guys. Try and reduce that exposure. If you have smart car keys, the ones that can figure out that you're standing next to the car when you press the button, that's not a great idea to have in your pocket either, because they obviously use high-frequency radiation as well to communicate with that car. Again, laptops, you don't want those things on your lap. Turn off Wi-Fi systems or Wi-Fi in your computer. For example, if you turn your Wi-Fi router off, but you forget to turn off the Wi-Fi in your laptop, it'll probably work even harder trying to acquire a signal. So make sure you turn it off both ways. Microwave ovens, normally when we do a home assessment, I show people with our high-frequency radiation meter on how far the radiation of that microwave is actually reaching. On average, I would recommend people to stay at least 8 meters away from an active microwave. So if you have to use it, turn it on and and run for it. 8 meters is about the minimum for most microwaves. Once the couple is pregnant, try and chauffeur your wife in your car, as in put her in the back seat. There's less radiation in the back seat than there is in the passenger seat in the front, and the driving seat is certainly the worst spot. So, if you're going somewhere together, make sure you drive if your wife is pregnant, and not let her drive. More specifically for women, really because women are born with basically all eggs from day one, it's really important basically to have lifetime preconception care and radiation avoidance. But a minimum of 4 months. You should be extremely careful and vigilant with it. So no mobile phone in pockets, no smart keys in the pockets, no laptops on your lap, no Wi-Fi. And once you're pregnant, ask to be driven. Okay, don't wait for the gentleman to offer it because they'll forget. Just explain what it's about and just ask to be driven, and preferably sit in the back seat. The only exclusion on this would be probably the hybrid cars, the electrical cars. They're basically bad news in every seat, so it doesn't really matter where you sit. So try and avoid those as much as you can, especially during that period. Now, more specifically to babies and children, as mentioned before, behavioral problems and increased risk of autism and leukemia are concerns concerns that we should consider when it comes to finding reasons to avoid radiation in children. According to the Russian National Committee on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, the following health hazards are likely to be faced by children who use mobile phones, likely for these things to appear in the near future. Things like disruption of memory, decline of attention, diminishing learning and cognitive abilities, increased irritability and sleep problems, increased insensitivities to stress, and increased epileptic readiness. In Russia, there's actually an existing warning for pregnant women, basically urging them to avoid using a mobile phone entirely. Now, I have to stress that all these tips, they're good practice, But there is so much radiation going on in the average house that having your home assessed and suitably shielding the bedrooms, that should have a high priority.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Yeah, that's a lot of information. I've even learnt more stuff tonight, so thank you. And yes, as you say, that we're just inundated now, aren't we? So, as you say, we can reduce exposure, but we need to really do more than that. Thank you.